All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're taking a deep dive into Train Your Mind to Be Successful by Sayra S. Montes.
Oh, interesting
Yeah,
choice.
it's a self-published book, aims to be like your ultimate guide to personal transformation, and it all starts with mindset,
Mindset, huh? That's a hot topic these days.
right? And Sayra's got some serious credentials, multilingual author, teacher, translator, the whole nine yards.
So she's clearly passionate about learning and growth, but does the book deliver?
That's what we're here to figure out, right? Is it all hype or is there something substantial to it? One thing that struck me is that she doesn't just stick to the feel-good, positive thinking stuff.
Oh, that's good to hear. I was a little worried it might be all fluff, no substance.
No, no, no. She actually brings in some pretty serious science to back up her claims.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Like, whoa.
She talks about neuroplasticity.
Ah, so how our brains can actually change and adapt.
Exactly. And she even delves into the law of attraction. And get this, even quantum physics.
Whoa, hold on. Quantum physics, that's getting pretty deep.
I know, right?
Mhm.
So we're not just talking about positive thinking here, but like actual tools for rewiring your brain for success.
Okay, that's a different angle. I'm definitely curious to hear more about that.
Me too. Let's start with something that jumped out at me right away, what she calls the Early Birds Club. She's a big advocate for having a structured morning routine.
Okay, I can see the appeal of that. Starting your day with intention and all that.
Exactly. But she really emphasizes the importance of waking up early.
Early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah, something like that. But what's the big deal about it? I mean, some of us are just naturally night owls, right? Does she address that?
Well, she argues that even waking up just 15 minutes earlier can have a significant impact on your whole day.
15 minutes. That doesn't sound too bad.
Right, and think of it like compound interest for your time.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Small changes add up over time. She even has this kind of quirky tip about counting backward from 5 to 1 to literally jump out of bed.
Okay, that's a new one. Where did she get that from?
She says it's borrowed from military training techniques. I don't know if it's true, but hey, whatever works, right?
If it gets you out of bed, why not?
Exactly. The point is to start the day with that proactive energy instead of hitting snooze and dragging yourself out of bed.
I can definitely see how that sets the tone for the rest of the day.
Totally. You're already in a proactive mindset instead of feeling like you're playing catch up from the moment you wake up.
She also talks about starting your day with gratitude and hydration.
Ah, the classic gratitude and water combo.
Right. Is there any science behind that, or is it more about just feeling good?
Well, a little of both, actually.
Okay, tell me more.
Studies have shown that expressing gratitude can have real effects on our brains.
Interesting.
Like, it actually boosts positive emotions. It can even improve sleep quality.
Wow, so it's not just some woo-woo feel-good thing.
Nope, it's backed by science. And as for hydration, well, that's just essential for every bodily function, right?
Obviously.
So starting your day well hydrated is like priming the engine for peak performance.
Makes sense. You wouldn't expect a car to run smoothly without enough oil.
Exactly.
I do have a personal story about morning workouts. I used to be a total night owl, working late and sleeping in.
Oh, same here.
But then, I decided to try switching my workouts to the mornings.
Mm.
Honestly, it changed everything. I felt more energized, focused, even more creative throughout the day.
Wow. So maybe Montes is onto something with this early birds club idea.
Yeah, maybe so. It's not about forcing yourself into a mold that doesn't fit, but about finding what works best for you.
Right. The key is to create a morning routine that sets you up for success, whatever that looks like for your individual lifestyle and goals.
Now let's move on to another major theme in the book, the power of a positive mindset.
Ah, yes, the classic think positive advice.
We hear this all the
Yeah.
time, right?
Hmm.
But Montes doesn't just tell you to think happy thoughts. She actually dives into the science of neuroplasticity,
Okay, that's interesting.
explaining how our brains can literally change based on our thoughts and actions.
It's like we can actually rewire our brains for positivity.
Exactly. But how does that actually work? It sounds a bit like magic.
Well, think of your brain like a garden.
A garden. Okay, I'm following.
Every thought you have, every action you take is like planting a seed. Negative thoughts are like weeds.
And positive thoughts are like,
Flowers.
exactly. Neuroplasticity means that we can change the landscape of our brains by choosing which seeds we plant and nurture.
So it's not about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring negative emotions.
Right. It's about consciously choosing to focus on the positive, cultivating those flowers in our mental garden.
Montes gives a specific exercise for this, right?
Yeah, she suggests replacing negative words and phrases with positive ones.
Both in your internal dialogue and out loud.
Exactly. Like instead of saying, I'm so stressed, you could say, I'm feeling challenged, but I'm capable of handling
It
this.
seems so simple.
It might seem small, but the words we use have a powerful impact on our thoughts and emotions.
It's like when you have that one coworker who's always complaining about everything. Their negativity can be so contagious.
Oh, tell me about it. But then the opposite is also true, right? If we surround ourselves with positive people and language,
Absolutely. It can uplift our own mindset.
so we can literally rewire our brains by changing our language patterns.
Think of it like creating a new path in the woods.
Okay, I like that.
The more you walk that path, the clearer and more defined it becomes, right?
Makes sense.
It's the same with our neural pathways. The more we repeat those positive thoughts and phrases, the stronger those pathways become, making positive thinking more automatic over time.
So it's like building a mental muscle. But
Exactly.
what about when things are genuinely tough? Are we supposed to just pretend everything is fine?
No, no, Montes acknowledges that life isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Good, because that would be unrealistic.
Right. There will be challenges, setbacks, and times when you feel anything but positive. The key is recognizing that you have a choice in how you respond to those challenges.
Okay, so it's about acknowledging those negative feelings, but not letting them control us.
Exactly. You can choose to focus on the lessons you can learn, the opportunities for growth, or even just the simple fact that you're still here, still fighting.
It's about finding the silver lining, even in the darkest clouds.
Beautifully put. Montes doesn't advocate for toxic positivity or pretending that everything is always perfect. It's about recognizing that even in difficult times, there are always things to be grateful for, lessons to be learned, and opportunities for growth.
And the more we focus on those positive aspects, the more we empower ourselves to move forward.
Precisely. That brings us to another major theme in the book: dreaming big. Montes really encourages us to think beyond our perceived limitations and set those ambitious goals.
Okay, I can get behind that. Shoot for the stars and all that.
Right. But isn't there a danger in setting goals that are too unrealistic? Could that lead to disappointment and discouragement?
That's a good question. I've definitely struggled with that.
Montes addresses that concern directly. She uses the example of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream.
Oh, wow, that's a powerful example.
Right. Something that seemed utterly impossible at the time, but ultimately changed the course of history.
It's a good reminder that what seems impossible today might become reality tomorrow.
Exactly. And she argues that setting those ambitious goals, even if they seem outlandish, actually boosts our focus, discipline, and commitment.
So it's not just about achieving the goal itself, but about the person we become in the process of striving for something bigger than ourselves.
Beautifully said. And she also uses examples of everyday objects that were once someone's crazy idea, like airplanes or the internet.
It's true, those things must have seemed impossible at some point.
Right. It's a good reminder that innovation starts with a bold vision.
Okay, so dream big, even if it seems crazy at first.
Exactly. If we only set goals that feel safe and achievable, we're likely to stay stuck in our comfort zones and never reach our full potential. Dreaming big allows us to tap into our creativity, our resourcefulness, our resilience. And even if we don't achieve the exact goal we set out for, the journey itself can be transformative.
I've heard that even the act of setting a goal, writing it down, and visualizing it can prime our brains for success.
Oh, absolutely. Montes talks about the power of visualization, but she adds a really interesting twist to it.
Oh, tell me more.
She says it's not just about picturing the end result, the fancy car, the dream house, but about visualizing the steps and habits needed to get there.
So it's not just about daydreaming about the destination, but about mentally rehearsing the journey itself.
Exactly. It's like an athlete visualizing their performance before a big game. They don't just imagine themselves winning the trophy, they imagine every step of the game, every move they'll make.
That makes sense.
This mental rehearsal helps them to perform better when it matters most.
And Montes is saying we can apply this same principle to achieving any goal.
Precisely.
I have to admit, I'm a big fan of vision boards. There's something about seeing those images of what I want to achieve that makes it feel more tangible and motivates me to take action. But I've never thought about visualizing the steps involved. That's a really interesting perspective.
It can be really powerful.
Okay, so we've talked about waking up early, cultivating a positive mindset, and dreaming big.
Hitting all the key points so far.
What's next on Montes's roadmap to success?
Well, this is where things get a bit more esoteric. Montes dives into the law of attraction,
Oh, here we go. I was wondering when we'd get to this.
and she tries to ground it in something more than just wishful thinking.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah,
Because I can be a bit skeptical about this whole law of attraction thing.
I get it. She connects it to the realm of quantum physics, which I know can seem a bit out there.
Quantum physics. Okay, this should be interesting. I'm more of a practical, down-to-earth kind of person.
Don't worry, I'm not going to get too technical.
Good, because I'm no physicist.
Montez's basic premise is that everything is energy, including our thoughts. And according to quantum physics, energy attracts similar energy.
Okay, I'm following so far.
So if we're constantly focusing on negative thoughts and fears, we're likely to attract more negative experiences into our lives.
Like attracts like, right?
Exactly. But if we can shift our focus to those positive thoughts, beliefs, and expectations.
Then we attract more positive experiences.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the idea of a positive mindset. But how does quantum physics actually explain this?
Think of it like a radio transmitter.
Okay, I can visualize that.
Your thoughts are like the signal you're sending out, and similar experiences are tuned in to the same frequency.
So the stronger the signal, the more likely you are to attract those experiences.
Exactly. The more intensely you focus on a particular thought or belief, the more likely you are to attract experiences that match that frequency.
So if I'm constantly worrying about money, I'm essentially sending out a lack of money signal.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to attract more of.
You got it. But the good news is you can change the channel.
Okay, that's good to know.
By consciously choosing to focus on thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and possibility, you can start to attract a different set of experiences.
So it's not just wishful thinking.
Well, some people might say that it is just coincidence or wishful thinking.
Right, that's what I always thought.
But here's what's fascinating. Montes points out that ancient civilizations, the Babylonians, Greeks, Indians, and others, they observed patterns of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, long before we had the scientific language to explain it.
You're telling me that ancient cultures were tapping into quantum physics without even realizing it?
It's an intriguing thought, isn't it? They noticed these patterns in the universe, these seemingly random events that held deeper meaning and significance. Maybe they were onto something that we're only beginning to understand now through the lens of modern science.
That's pretty mind-blowing. I've definitely had some pretty wild experiences with synchronicity myself, moments where it felt like the universe was conspiring to help me achieve a particular goal.
We've all had those moments, haven't we? But let's be real, we all struggle with self-doubt, right? Those little voices in our heads telling us we're not good enough, smart enough, or whatever enough.
Oh, absolutely. Those voices could be so loud sometimes.
Right. And if we don't believe in ourselves, how can we possibly expect to attract our desires?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does Montes address this in the book?
She does. She acknowledges that self-doubt is a common human experience, but she challenges the belief that we need to have 100% unwavering belief for the law of attraction to work.
Okay, that's good to hear because 100% belief all the time. That's a tall order.
Right. In fact, she shares a surprising statistic from the book. You only need to believe 51% to start manifesting your desires.
Wait, only 51%? Really? That's a lot less intimidating than I thought.
It's more about tipping the scales in favor of belief, even if it's just a slight edge over the doubt.
So it's not about pretending those doubts don't exist.
No, it's about consciously choosing to shift our focus to what we want to believe, even if it's just a sliver more than the doubt.
That's actually really empowering.
It is, but how do we actually do that? How do we shift those beliefs, especially those deeply ingrained subconscious ones that seem to sabotage our best efforts?
That's a great question. Because sometimes it feels like those beliefs are hardwired into our brain.
It can definitely feel that way. And that leads us to one of Montes's key concepts, mindset shifts.
Mindset shifts. Okay, tell me more.
She emphasizes that changing your mindset isn't about some magical overnight transformation.
Good, because I'm not sure I believe in magic.
It's about learning a new skill.
A skill. So we can actually learn to change our mindset.
Exactly. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument or speak a new language. It takes effort, consistency, and a willingness to practice.
So we're not just stuck with the mindset we were born with. We can actually choose to change it, rewire our thinking patterns.
Exactly. But how do we actually do that? What are the specific techniques?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Spill the beans.
Well, Montes uses this analogy of the subconscious mind as a servant who carries out the commands of the conscious mind.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So our subconscious mind is like our personal assistant.
In a way, yes. And if we're constantly feeding our subconscious mind negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, that's what it's going to act on.
It's like giving your assistant bad instructions.
Exactly. But if we consciously choose to feed it positive, empowering thoughts,
Then that's what it will manifest in our lives.
precisely.
Okay, so the first step is becoming aware of the negative thoughts and beliefs that are holding us back.
Awareness is key. It's about paying attention to your inner dialogue, noticing the patterns of thought that are creating your reality. Then you can start to challenge those thoughts and replace them with more empowering ones.
This reminds me of something else Montes talks about, embracing discomfort as a sign of growth.
Ah, yes, stepping outside of that comfort zone.
She says that if you're not feeling at least a little uncomfortable, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough to grow.
She's right. She uses the analogy of physical exercise. If you're not feeling a bit of discomfort, you're probably not challenging your muscles enough to get stronger.
I can relate to that. No pain, no gain, right?
Exactly. The same applies to our minds. It's in those moments of discomfort when we're stretching ourselves beyond our familiar limits that we experience the most growth.
So growth happens when we're pushing ourselves, even when it feels a little scary or uncomfortable.
Exactly. And, in a world that glorifies the hustle and grind, Montes throws in a seemingly counterintuitive idea, self-care.
Self-care. Okay, I'm all for that, but isn't that a bit contradictory?
It might seem that way, right?
Yeah, like we're supposed to be working hard and pushing ourselves, but then also taking care of ourselves.
Montes sees self-care not as a luxury, but as a foundation for achieving goals.
Okay, that's a different way of looking at it. So it's not about being selfish or indulgent.
Not at all. She connects self-care to ancient wisdom traditions like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine.
Ooh, interesting. Tell me more.
They emphasize preventative care and maintaining balance in all areas of life.
So it's about taking care of ourselves so we can be our best selves.
Exactly. She argues that when we prioritize self-care, we actually enhance our productivity and well-being in the long run. It's like taking your car in for regular maintenance.
Oh, I like that analogy.
If you neglect it, eventually it's going to break down.
Makes sense. So self-care is like preventative maintenance for our minds and bodies.
Exactly. And it's not just about indulging in bubble baths and spa days, although those can be lovely too.
Oh, I do love a good spa day. But I know it's about more than that.
Right. Montes emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries, prioritizing sleep, nourishing our bodies with healthy foods, and even just taking a few minutes each day to do something that brings us joy.
It's about being kind to ourselves, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. She also stresses the importance of treating ourselves with kindness and compassion, recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup.
Okay, I'm starting to see how self-care isn't selfish. It's actually essential for achieving our goals and living a fulfilling life. It's about recognizing that we deserve to be cared for, both by ourselves and by others.
Absolutely. Speaking of others, Montes also dives into the power of our environment.
Our environment, like the people we surround ourselves with.
Exactly. And she has a pretty strong stance on this.
Oh, tell me more.
She advises readers to abandon the negative people club.
Wow, that's pretty direct. Even if it means cutting ties with family members who are holding us back.
She doesn't mince words, no. She explains the concept of social contagion, how positive or negative habits can spread within our social circles.
It's like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're constantly surrounded by people who are complaining, gossiping, or engaging in self-destructive behaviors.
It can be tough to stay positive and focused on your goals.
Exactly. But what about when those negative people are family members? It can be a really tricky situation.
It is. Montes doesn't shy away from that, though. She says that sometimes, for the sake of our own well-being and growth, we need to make those difficult choices.
It's about setting boundaries and creating healthy distance when needed.
Even with family.
Even with family. She emphasizes the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who uplift us, support our goals, and inspire us to be our best selves.
So it's about choosing quality over quantity when it comes to our relationships.
It's about creating an environment that nurtures our dreams and aspirations, rather than one that holds us back.
I know from experience that this can be tough, especially when it involves people we've known for a long time or have close family ties with. But sometimes you have to prioritize your own growth and well-being.
Absolutely. You have the power to choose your environment, your thoughts, your actions, and ultimately, you shape your own destiny.
That's a powerful reminder, and it leads us nicely into the next section of the book, which is all about goal setting. But before we dive into that, let's take a quick break to refresh and reset. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into Train Your Mind to Be Successful with Sayra S. Montes. Okay, so we're back and ready to dig into goal setting with Sayra S. Montes. Everyone wants to achieve their dreams, but how do we actually make that happen? Does her book offer a magic formula?
Well, no magic formulas, unfortunately. But she does lay out some pretty solid strategies, starting with the idea of taking those big dreams and turning them into concrete, actionable goals.
I guess that makes sense, right? It's hard to hit a target you can't see.
Exactly. And she starts with the classic SMART goals framework: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. It's pretty popular in the productivity world, right?
It's a classic for a reason. It works. But Montes goes beyond just setting SMART goals. She's a big believer in the power of writing things down, not just keeping them in your head.
Oh, I can see how that would help. It's like it makes it more real somehow.
Exactly. Plus, it forces you to be more specific. You can't just have a vague notion of being successful. You have to define what that looks like for you with concrete milestones and deadlines.
Okay, so get clear on what you want, write it down, make it smart. Got it. But what about breaking it down into smaller steps? Sometimes my goals feel so huge and overwhelming, I don't even know where to start.
Montes has you covered there too. She provides tons of examples of how to take a large goal and chunk it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
That's a relief. Overwhelm is the ultimate productivity killer, in my experience.
Totally. And when each step feels doable, it's way less intimidating to get started. It's like climbing a mountain. If you focus only on the summit, it can feel impossible. But if you break it down into base camps, each one feels like a victory.
I love that analogy. It makes the whole process seem less daunting. But even with the best plan in place, sometimes I struggle with staying motivated. Procrastination is my biggest enemy. Any advice from Montez on how to beat that?
She's all about consistent effort and perseverance. Her motto is, go hard or go home. She even quotes Kobe Bryant in the book. I can't relate to lazy people. We don't speak the same language. I don't understand you. I don't want to understand you.
Whoa, okay, that's pretty intense. She doesn't sugarcoat things.
Not at all. It's a powerful reminder that success requires dedication and consistent effort. But it's not just about willpower. She connects it back to the idea of neuroplasticity. Remember how we talked about the brain forming new pathways?
Yeah, the mental garden analogy.
Exactly. Those pathways get stronger with repetition. So the more consistently we act with our goals, the more ingrained those actions become almost automatic.
Okay, so building those habits is key. It's not just about one burst of effort. It's about making those positive actions part of our daily routine.
Exactly. And the more we do it, the easier it becomes. But here's where Montes throws in a curveball.
Ooh, what's that?
She's also a big advocate for taking breaks.
Wait, hold on. Taking breaks? I thought we were supposed to be going hard, pushing ourselves to the limit.
It might seem counterintuitive, especially in our always-on culture, but Montes argues that rest and relaxation are actually essential for sustained success. Chronic stress, she says, drains our mental and physical resources.
Yeah, I can see that. When I'm feeling burnt out, my productivity plummets. I'm more likely to make mistakes, and my creativity just disappears.
Montes isn't saying we should be lazy, but she emphasizes the importance of strategic downtime. Give yourself permission to step away, recharge, and come back with fresh energy.
So it's not about working less, it's about working smarter.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about finding that sustainable rhythm for your life, the balance between effort and rest that allows you to achieve your goals without sacrificing your well-being.
That makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I need to get better at taking breaks.
Yeah.
I tend to push myself too hard sometimes.
We all do. But remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And before we move on to Montez's fascinating insights on abundance and prosperity, there's one final piece of advice from this section that I think is crucial.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the secret sauce?
It's all about staying humble and teachable.
Humility. I don't usually think of that as a key ingredient for success. Isn't it more about confidence and self-belief?
Montez argues that a beginner's mindset, the willingness to admit that you don't know everything, and being open to learning from others is essential for growth.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. When we get stuck in thinking we have it all figured out, we close ourselves off to new information and opportunities for growth.
I can definitely see how arrogance and a know-it-all attitude can be major roadblocks. You miss out on so much valuable insight and feedback when you're not willing to listen.
Exactly. Montes challenges us to embrace lifelong learning, view every experience as a potential lesson, and let go of that need to be right all the time.
I love that. It's about approaching life with curiosity and a willingness to grow no matter how much we think we already know.
Beautifully said. And that open-minded, humble approach is what leads to true abundance, according to Montes. But we'll dive into that fascinating topic after a quick break.
And we're back, diving into the final part of our exploration of Sayra S. Montes's Train Your Mind to Be Successful. We've covered a lot, but this is where it gets really interesting, I think, with her ideas about abundance and prosperity.
Yeah, this is where Montes really goes beyond the typical self-help stuff. She's not just talking about making more money, although that's certainly part of it.
Right, it's deeper than that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For Montes, abundance is more of a state of mind than a specific dollar amount in your bank account.
It's about recognizing what you already have, being grateful for it,
Right.
instead of always chasing after more.
Precisely. She even talks about the origin of the word abundance. It comes from the Latin abundare, meaning to overflow.
Ooh, I like that. So it's not about scarcity, it's about recognizing the overflow that already exists in our lives.
That's a great way to put it. But of course, it's easier said than done, especially when it comes to money.
Oh, absolutely. I think most of us struggle with that scarcity mindset on some level. We're always worried about not having enough, even if we're doing okay financially.
It's so deeply ingrained in our culture, this fear of lack. Montes believes we can shift to an abundance mindset, but it takes work.
So how do we do that? I mean, it's easy to say, think abundant thoughts,
Mm.
but those deep-seated beliefs about money can be hard to shake.
She suggests a few things. First, just becoming aware of those limiting beliefs. What are those messages you're telling yourself about money?
Oh man, where do I even begin? Money doesn't grow on trees. I can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. It's like a whole script running in the background.
Right, those subconscious programs.
Mm.
Montes says we need to actively challenge those beliefs and replace them with more empowering ones.
So instead of saying, I can't afford that, I should say,
Maybe, how can I create the abundance to afford that? It's about shifting the focus from lack to possibility.
okay, I like that. But it feels like those old beliefs are so ingrained. How do we actually change them?
It takes consistent practice. Montes suggests things like gratitude journaling, really focusing on what you already have, and using affirmations to reprogram your thinking.
So it's kind of like brainwashing yourself, but in a good way.
Exactly. And she also talks about visualization, imagining yourself living a life of abundance. But there's one tip she offers that I found particularly interesting and maybe even a bit counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
She suggests giving money away, even small amounts, as a way to demonstrate trust in the universe's abundance.
Wait, really? But if I'm already worried about not having enough, wouldn't giving money away just make things worse?
It might seem that way logically, but Montes argues that it's about shifting your energy. Instead of clinging tightly to what you have, you're demonstrating faith that there's more than enough to go around.
Okay, I can kind of see that. It's like saying to the universe, hey, I trust you to provide for me.
Exactly. It's a way to step out of that scarcity mindset and into a more abundant way of being.
That's pretty powerful.
Right.
So we're talking about mindset shifts, gratitude, visualization, and even giving. But what about taking action? Montes is all about putting in the work, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a quote she includes that really drives this home. From Kobe Bryant, actually. He says, I can't relate to lazy people. We don't speak the same language. I don't understand you. I don't want to understand you.
Wow, okay, she's not messing around.
Hmm.
It's a good reminder that just wishing for things isn't enough. You have to get out there and make them happen.
Right. And Montes acknowledges that taking action can be scary, especially when it means stepping outside of our comfort zones or facing those deeply ingrained fears.
Ugh, fear is such a buzzkill. It stopped me from doing so many things I wanted to do.
She talks about the intention-behavior gap, that space between what we intend to do and what we actually end up doing. We all know that feeling of wanting to achieve something, but then procrastination or fear takes over.
Oh yeah, I'm the queen of procrastination.
Yeah.
Any tips from Montes on how to overcome that?
She offers a few practical strategies. Breaking tasks down into smaller steps, setting deadlines to create that sense of regency, and rewarding yourself for progress, even small wins.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm much more likely to get started if something feels manageable. But what about accountability? I always thought telling people about my goals would help me stay on track.
That's a common belief, but Montes suggests that sharing our goals too soon can actually backfire.
Really? How so?
She says that sometimes when we share our goals prematurely, it's like we get that sense of satisfaction just from talking about it, and then our motivation to actually do the work diminishes.
It's like our brain tricks us into thinking we've already achieved the goal, so why bother putting in the effort?
Exactly. And she also points out that sharing our goals can make us more vulnerable to self-doubt and negative feedback from others, which can really derail our efforts.
So it's not about keeping our dreams a secret, but about being mindful of when and with whom we share them.
Exactly. Find your trusted supporters, those who will encourage you and lift you up. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more tool Montes champions that I want to touch on: journaling.
Journaling. I've tried that on and off, but I never seem to stick with it. What's her take on why it's so beneficial?
Montes sees journaling as a powerful tool for self-reflection, processing emotions, clarifying thoughts, setting intentions, and tracking progress toward your goals. She recommends making it a regular practice, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
I can see how getting those thoughts and feelings out of my head and onto paper could be helpful. It's like creating space in my mind.
Exactly. And she also suggests using journaling as a gratitude practice, taking time each day to write down things you're thankful for.
So it's not about writing a perfectly crafted diary entry. It's more about using journaling as a tool for self-discovery and personal growth.
That's a great way to sum it up. It's your own personal space to be honest with yourself, explore your inner landscape, and work through challenges.
Wow, this deep dive has been packed with insights. We've covered so much ground, from the power of our thoughts to the importance of taking action, prioritizing self-care, creating a supportive environment, setting smart goals, visualizing success, embracing abundance, overcoming procrastination, and even the simple but powerful practice of journaling.
It's a lot to digest, but the core message is clear. We have far more power to shape our own reality than we often realize.
Montes reminds us that we're not victims of our circumstances, but creators of our own lives.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, and ultimately to create the life we desire.
It's about aligning our inner world with our outer world and taking consistent action to bridge that gap.
It's a journey, not a destination. Embrace the process, learn from your experiences, and never stop growing.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired.
Me too. This has been an incredible exploration of Train Your Mind to Be Successful. If you're ready to dive deeper, I highly recommend checking out the book yourself. And as we wrap up, I'd love to leave you with this question. What is one small step you can take today to start aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and actions with the success you desire?
Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your insights and experiences. And thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and growth.